Some things in life happen to us and we are completely caught off guard by them because we genuinely couldn't see them coming. While others, they happen because the red flags were there all over the place, over and over again, and we kept ignoring them or simply just missing them. In today's episode, I want to share with you guys 6 warning signs that you should be on the lookout for that could tell you early enough if you're heading to financial disaster. My name is Susan Wanjiko. I'm very happy to have you here on another episode of Finance Friday. The first warning sign that you could be heading towards financial disaster is that you are living paycheck to paycheck, or if you are living above your means. Now, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're heading to financial disaster if you don't do anything about it, because if that paycheck ends up being cut off, either because of a loss of job or loss of your ability to make an income, then disaster ensues, right? The second thing is, if you are already living above your means, it even makes the disaster now catastrophic because you were already spending more than what you already earn, and now we have no paycheck at all. Now, what is the recommendation here is that you want to ensure that if you find yourself in that situation where you're either living paycheck to paycheck or you're already spending more than what you already earn, there's only 2 things that you can do about it. The first thing is that you either need to look into making more money. That is either by negotiating a better pay at your job, increasing your sources of income, either by exploring business or other avenues of making additional income. That's the first thing that you can do. The second thing, and which is the most immediate thing that you can do, is to look at your expenses and cut back on them. On this channel, we've talked about the 50-30-20 budgeting rule. That is a very rule of thumb to help you, or a benchmark to help you investigate whether you are living within your means. It asserts that 50% of your net income should cover your mandatory bills and expenses. Now, if 80% or 90 or 100% of your entire income goes towards mandatory bills and expenses, that is a clear indication that you're living above your means and you probably need to downgrade. So whether that is downgrading your house, downgrading your car, downgrading your level of your standards of living or your lifestyle, that's a better word, lifestyle. Those are some of the things that you can do to ensure that you do not make the situation worse by letting it happen until financial ruin comes upon you. Okay. The second warning sign that you could be headed towards financial disaster is you are borrowing loans to pay other loans because you're very deep and heavy into bad debt. Now, what's the difference between good debt and bad debt? Good debt is money that you've taken out that could help you to build income or to increase your wealth. So this is money that you're putting into work, into a project, into an asset that will either generate income or help you increase your wealth in the long term. What is bad debt? Bad debt is consumer debt. It is the money that you're taking out to supplement the fact that you're living above your means. So on the 25th or towards the end of the month, when your paycheck is done, but you still need transport, you still need food, then you take out consumer debt. That is an example of bad debt, or just money that you are taking out because you had not planned for something that wasn't a surprise. Right? So we are talking things like school fees. If that's not student loan, I mean like you have not planned for school fees and the time for your child to go back to school is here. So you have to take out a loan because you didn't set aside money for that child to go back to school. Whether we like it or not, it's still bad debt. It's still consumer debt because it's not money that will help me to increase my income or my wealth in the long term. It is the mobile loans that we are taking. It is the money that we are taking, the loans we are taking to travel and to go see Dubai on a loan. That is bad debt. So if you find yourself in a situation where you are taking out loans to pay other loans, that is a warning sign. That's a red flag that you could be heading towards financial ruin, because where does it end? At what particular point does it end? And how are you going to pay back all these loans in the long run? Okay, now, if you find yourself in that situation, I'll always recommend coming up with a debt repayment plan. All right, and we have three major debt repayment strategies. You can either use the debt avalanche strategy, which ideally is the strategy by which you decide to pay off the debt that charges you the highest interest first as you work your way downwards. And mobile loans are one of those loans that charge you crazy interest. I don't know if you guys have ever done the math of how much interest you have to pay back on the mobile loans. They're very easy to access, so we miss out on the interest part, the interest rate part, but they charge us crazy interest. Okay, so someone would probably prioritize the debt that charges them the highest interest and then work their way down. That is the debt avalanche repayment method. And then we have the debt snowball repayment method, whereby you choose to pay your loans from the lowest amount, working your way through to the highest amount. And then thirdly, we have the debt repayment strategy that is referred to as debt consolidation. And this is a very good repayment strategy for people who are overwhelmed with so many debts, and all these people want their money all at the same time. A good example is if you have 7 different mobile loans and all of them at the end of the month need you to pay them back. Okay, so debt consolidation works when you choose a particular entity, either a circle or even a personal friend or a family member that can give you a low interest loan or a soft loan, so that you can use that money to pay off all this small stubborn debt. And then you remain with this one debt that you can ask for maybe 2 or 3 years or however long to pay it consistently per month until you've cleared it. So if you are in this situation, you need to come up with a debt repayment strategy ASAP. Okay. The third warning sign that you could be heading towards financial trouble is that you realize that time and time again, or over the months, you are unable to pay off your bills on time. Like your landlord is always having to remind you. The school is always having to remind you that you haven't paid school fees. You may think that these people are just giving you pressure for all the wrong reasons. I've met people who are like, why are you calling me? And I'm still within my rights, within my duration to pay this debt. But if that is a situation that has been recurring over and over and over again, and these are your mandatory bills, and you're always late to pay them, this could be a red flag or a warning sign that you need to get your house in order, because you could be heading towards financial disaster. If you're having liquidity issues, you could be heading towards financial disaster. What can you do? Number one, you need to have a budget, and that budget needs to show what you need to prioritize the needs, and then you work with the ones after you've already paid the needs. Okay, and so for some people, you even have to automate some of these payments. So if you have a debt that you have to pay every month, instead of having them call you every month, effect a standing order with your bank so that that payment goes automatically. If that is rent for you, effect the standing order so that it is deducted automatically. That is a way to ensure that you're remaining consistent in your savings, in your debt repayments, and in your bills, especially the most important ones, so that you don't keep delaying on these payments. You also need to investigate, where exactly is my money going that I am delaying to pay on these very important things. So you definitely need to go back to the drawing board, come up with a budget if you don't already have one, so that you can do a post-mortem and investigate what exactly is wrong with my finances that I am unable to pay these things on time. All right. The fourth warning sign that you could be heading towards financial trouble is that you do not have an emergency fund or any financial cushion to protect you in case of unforeseen emergencies. I've repeated this here, and I keep repeating it, and I'll forever repeat it, because I need us guys to understand how important having an emergency fund is. Because if you don't have an emergency fund, I've said it again, you are literally one emergency away from financial crisis. You're already living paycheck to paycheck. You have zero savings, zero investments. What happens if you lose your job today? What happens if, for instance, you have a large hospital bill that has depleted your insurance cover, and now you need to get someone out of the hospital to get them discharged or to process money for a surgery? These are some of the things that make me, they used to keep me up at night, to be quite honest with you guys. Every time I thought that if an emergency strikes right now, I have nothing to fall back on, it is one of the things that really motivated me to take my money more seriously. It's one of the things that motivated me to take my savings seriously. It's one of the things that makes it easy for me to practice delayed gratification. I can sacrifice some wants for this very important thing. So if you don't have an emergency fund right now as we speak, you could be heading towards financial disaster, because if an emergency hits, then we're in trouble, real serious trouble. So you want to prioritize building an emergency fund and starting it immediately. All right. Now, another warning sign that you could be heading towards financial ruin is that thinking about your finances and your financial situation and money gives you real anxiety. I have met people who are very comfortable talking about money. Like if you ask them, how much do you earn? What are you doing for money? They're super excited and enthusiastic to talk about money. I'm one of those people. I love talking about money, not because I have it all figured out, but it's also because as a financial coach, I would love to see a day and a time that comes that money conversations are no longer a taboo. We could be helping each other move so many things if only we were forthcoming about discussing money and discussing finances, right? And one of the things that has helped me to really be able to be comfortable to talk about my own financial situation, whether I'm talking whether I'm talking about it with a friend or with a client, I'm comfortable because I have understood the right thing to do. Right? I've understood the basics. I've understood budgeting. I've understood what I need to do with regard to investing. And I'm not focused on being extreme. I'm just focused on being consistent. And as long as I know I'm consistently doing the right thing, then I know I'm winning, right? The moment you discover that when people start talking about finances, or you think about, forget people, just thinking about your financial situation and thinking about money gives you anxiety, that could be a red flag. That could be a warning sign that you need to do something about it. Identify, what are you anxious about? Is it your source of income? Then instead of just burying your head under the sand, if you're worried about income, then start thinking of, how can I make more money? That's better than just ignoring the situation and being anxious every time it pops up in your mind. Okay? Identify what it is that you're anxious about. Are you anxious about the fact that you don't have an emergency fund? Figure out how you can build an emergency fund. It's quite easy. Open a simple money market fund and pick a figure that you can start funding into it consistently. The more money you make, the more money you put in there. It is a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon, right? Worrying about not having an emergency fund and not doing anything about it is like doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. Okay, so if you're worried about not having an emergency fund and you keep panicking about it, do something about it. All right. If you're worried about your spending, or you're worried that you don't know where your money is going, get a tracking app, get a tracking resource to help you to be able to budget and to track exactly where your money is going, so that you can identify where the loopholes are and actually sort it out, right? So if you get anxiety, if you're anxious thinking about your money, if you're anxious even just tracking to see, I coach people on a full-time basis, and one of the things that really blows my mind is that someone comes to class, and most of us come to class super afraid of what we are going to find out. Like, people will tell me, Coach, I just don't want to look at these numbers. And I'll ask them, why haven't you been tracking? And they're like, I know it is a crazy number and I don't want to know how much I'm spending on entertainment. Given that I know I don't have savings, I've not started building my investment or insurance portfolio, I'm deep in debt, I really don't want to know what's going to entertainment. I really don't want to know how much is going to skincare. I really don't want to know exactly how much is going towards drinks with the boys or drinks with the girls. The moment you find yourself in that situation, that's a warning sign, that's a red flag. It means you're running away from a situation that needs you to attend to it. Now listen, guys, personal finance is personal. So you're not, one of the things I love to tell people is that I've come to realize that, especially Nairobi is a city full of broke people trying to impress other broke people, or trying to prove to other broke people that they're not broke. And for me, I've always loved to remind myself and to remind my clients that the goal is not to look wealthy, it is to be wealthy. And if it takes me looking in the mirror and seeing how bad the situation is for me to do something about it, then that's what I'm about to do. So you can't solve this financial problem. You can't get yourself out of this roller coaster. You can't get yourself out of this trend that you are in that will lead you to financial disaster if you don't call yourself out and look at the situation as is and accept that this is exactly where I am and this is what I need to do about it. For some of us, we need to downgrade. For other people, we need to talk to a financial coach. For other people, we need to move to a smaller house, sell the car. But if that is what it takes for you to not go to financial ruin, then you need to do exactly that, because not doing anything, we already know the outcome of that. Finally, the last warning sign that you could be heading to financial disaster is that your financial problems have started affecting your personal life and important relationships in your life. So whether that is you're losing friends because you're not paying back debt, or your marriage is on the rocks because of financial situations, or you're now depressed and anxious all the time because of money, those are red flags. Those are warning signs that you need to pay attention to your finances. Now, what can you do if you ticked at least 4 out of 6 of these warning signs? The first thing you need is a budget. Budgeting is telling your money where to go, not wondering where it went. I know I sound like a broken record because I keep saying that, but that's the truth. You need to know where your money is going. You need to have a spending plan. You need to have a prescriptive budget. What would I want my money to start doing for me? Now that I've identified there's a problem, now that I've identified if I don't fix it, things are going to get messy. Where do I want my money to start going? Is it the emergency fund? Is it paying off this debt? Is it, putting some money towards an insurance so that I have medical cover? What is that? Identify what you would want your money to do for you, then plan and budget for it. Is it 10% of your income? Is it 5,000 shillings every month? You need to, if you don't budget, you can't solve any personal finance problem. You must intentionally and beforehand decide where you want your money to go. So that's the first thing that you can do. The second thing that you can do is to obviously cut back on unnecessary spending. Think of avenues to make more money if you cut back on spending, but you need to live within your means. Another thing that you can do is talk to a personal finance coach that would help you to analyze the situation and to come up with a plan, a financial plan or strategy that could get you out of where you are. This is one of the things that I offer as a paid service. So I'm gonna put a link in the description box. If you would like to get one-on-one personal finance coaching, I'll link it in the description box where you can register and get more details on how you can hop onto that. If you need a budget and you haven't bought one, and you don't have one, I'll also put a link in the description box where you can access a budget tracking template, an Excel one that could help you to, first of all, get started in identifying exactly where your money is going. So I don't know if you guys have any other red flags or warning signs that you know of that mean that someone could be heading towards financial disaster. If yes, drop them in the comment section down below, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I also have another video that I've talked about what to do in case you find yourself in financial trouble. I'm going to link it down here. Watch it so that you can know how to troubleshoot this particular situation if at all you find yourself in it. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to like this video, to share it with your friends, and to subscribe so that you can be notified every week when I upload a new video. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you on the next episode of Finance Friday.